I teach from the Bible. Is it okay to use crystals? Yes, it is okay to use crystals in your practice. Ancient Kemet, that we can see that the pharaohs, they had a lot of gold around them. They had crystals and diamonds, and all of these things are precious to the body. They can help alchemicalize the properties in our body, but they also had precious stones inside of the Holy of Holies, inside of their temples.
Just like magic. I get everything I want 'cause I attract.
Hello, Divine Ones, Minister Ashley here. So I've had several people inquire about crystals in the Bible. Overall, people wanted to know, being that I talk about the Bible and I teach from the Bible, is it okay to use crystals? Yes, it is okay to use crystals in your practice. Let me explain. First, let's establish what crystals are. Crystals are minerals that are found in different locations on the earth that can be from the surface level to deep down in the ground. And so based on where they're located and based on how deep they are in the ground is the type of energy that it will carry. So we know that if we're taking this from a biblical standpoint, that we are indeed from the earth. So they are minerals from the earth. So we are made pretty much of the same things. So we have crystals in our body. And one of our biggest crystals or crystallizations in our body is our pineal gland, as well as other centers in our body. So we can take these crystals and we can utilize them to help charge those points in our body. As humans, we are made up of a large percent of water. So water is one of the smallest crystallizations in the world. So when we ingest water, we are really ingesting crystals. But nobody stops and says, are you worshiping water? But people will say that others are worshiping crystals. Now, there is a healing technique that you can speak into your water. Remember, there's life and death in the power of the tongue. So when we speak over our water, when we speak over the crystals, when we speak over anything in our lives, we're really bringing life or death. So with that being said, when we speak over our water, when we pray over our water, when we pray or speak, set intentions over our food, that when we ingest it, that we're really changing the properties within our bodies. So if we are taking this to crystals, we're using crystals, we're setting an intention. We know that certain crystals carry certain properties that can merge with our body chemistry. It could literally change the way how our bodies operate on a chemical level. Pharaohs were known to have crowns made of gold encrusted with jewels, precious jewels and gems. We can see this with the high priests when they had the ephod on, and they would have like the breastplate of righteousness. They had 12 precious stones, also known as crystals, and this would help them to be able to deflect negative energy, to receive positive energy. I mean, there's so many different ways of how they would utilize these crystals and these precious metals. When we take this to ancient Egypt, aka ancient Kemet, that we can see that the pharaohs, they had a lot of gold around them. They had crystals and diamonds, and all of these things are precious because they are precious to the body. They can help alchemicalize the properties in our body. If we look at the dimensions and the design of the holy temples, not only had gold and certain metrics, that is all layered in esoteric knowledge, but they also had precious stones inside of the Holy of Holies, inside of their temples. So if we look at the broad picture and we look at how the crystals and how anything is really used throughout history, especially in sacred practices, that we can get an understanding of how to utilize those in our lives. Now, fast forward to the book of Revelations, that crystals are mentioned in that book as well as being adornments in heaven. So how wonderful is that? So that also, from an esoteric standpoint, heaven always represents the higher consciousness, the higher realms. So if we think about that, and we know that we have precious metals in our bodies, and we have other crystallizations in our body, that this could also represent that when a person goes through an alchemical process, that literally their brains change, their brains transform. So going from holistic nature, on the lower plane, your body is out of alignment, that when you alchemize and when you awaken, that your brain pattern changes. And that's another esoteric principle of how the crystals represent that. Things weren't important, then I don't think they would be mentioned. A lot of things that people overlook in the Bible and all these other sacred texts, they actually have some legitimacy to it. They actually have a deeper and higher meaning. So it's up to us to investigate exactly what is being said under the surface. They're not going to have a whole entire chapter about crystals or a whole entire chapter about how to do this or how to use that, because that was inlaid in the culture. So overall, I don't see anybody worshiping crystals. I just see people talking about them, describing their properties, because these are literal, like they come from minerals, they come from the earth, so they do have different properties. So it's important to know these different properties. Knowing about the seasons, all of this stuff helps to work with the chemistry in our bodies. So with that being said, that when we come across information online, yes, we are supposed to do our due diligence, but at the same time, if we're only taking it from a very microscopic, very judgmental standpoint, we're really missing a lot of information. If we know that crystals carry different properties, and say, for example, if I'm a high priest and I'm going into the Holy of Holies, and I know that it's a time that I'm in spiritual warfare, it would behoove me to have a certain type of crystal that will help absorb negative energy, such as obsidian. Or for example, topaz. Topaz helps to recharge your energy if you're feeling sluggish. So these things are important to know, because you will know how the high priest would use them. You would know how how you can utilize them in your personal life. These things are here to serve us. These things are here to amplify us, or either it can bring us down. No different than food, no different than having too much or too less of anything in your lives. So before you come to a concrete judgment, I will always prompt people to ask and investigate for yourself and come to your own conclusion. Don't be so quick to make a judgment call, especially if you have not done any investigation for yourself. Because people do make mistakes, because after all, we are all humans and we are here on this human journey. So with that, I'll check you out later. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this, you will also enjoy my PDF downloads. Listen in the link in the bio, as well as you can pre-order my new book. So thank you guys so much. Minister Ashley, peace.